should one day tell you that, hey, since you have diabetes, you should not take Caro. That's a lie. There's what we call portion control.
Finance and wealth.
Keep track of your spending. And part of the spending, of course, as we said, be able to separate wants from needs. That's secondary.
Leadership and governance.
There are people who take on the political aspect and try to water down important, significant decisions we leaders take for the good of this country.
Not forgetting parenting.
Now you're raising kids or children who are in a totally different time. You get it. Those days your mother would just give you an eye and you know this is a problem.
Hey, there are visitors.
There are visitors
and
around.
Mom gives you this eye, you know?
Yes.
Catch more of this every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m.
Here we are. We want to thank the Almighty God for the day it has been, and we are grateful for you who has been watching Church of Uganda Family TV from morning up to this time. Some of you are already at home. Some of you are on your way. But we are grateful and we believe that you will arrive safely. So this is Family Hour, and this is our Tuesday edition where we discuss health. Now today we are looking at something very, very pertinent, yet a few people pay attention to it, and it costs people's lives. But yeah, I believe by the end of this show, you'll be able to embrace what we call occupational health and safety. Of course, we know that Uganda has the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2006, which has a lot of things, including vicarious liability. I mean, there is a lot embedded in that act. However, a few people know about this act. That is why it is important to watch our morning show here, where we have a segment called Know Your Rights, because we get into the details of this act. But also, we've had very many reports where people are working in factories and then their hands are chopped off by machines, or someone is working for a construction company, they get an accident, their legs are amputated or their arms, and they don't get any compensation. I mean, yet there is a lot that needs to be done to protect the employees. I just look at a situation where we are in studio here and maybe the ceiling falls onto us, and just a situation, and put it in line with your workspace and see how safe are you. Do you even know that you have rights as an employee to be safe and healthy at that workplace? Now, this is a public health concern that we want to talk about. I know we've talked about a lot of things to do with the medical, yet there are also these things that might be looked at as minor, yet they're so serious. Very many people are crying out there because of the working environment. Now, today with us is Barnabas Ssekawu, who is a health and safety specialist. He's going to take us through improving occupational health and safety for employees at workplaces. Join me as we welcome him. You're most welcome, Sevo.
Thank you.
I don't know when we last had you. Was it this year or last year?
It has been quite a while.
Yeah.
I think I should say Happy New Year, maybe.
That is if it was last year.
Yeah, sure.
So that shows how much the time you've been away from this place. We can't even remember when you were here. But we are grateful that you are here with us again. How have you been?
I've been well, and I thank God that I've found you safe.
Okay.
And I've found all members of Family TV okay. Mm-hmm. That is a very great thing, being that I'm here to talk about health and safety.
Yeah.
People are safe, we thank God.
Well, we getting into our discussion today, we want to understand this whole aspect of occupational health and safety. I mean, when you talk about it, someone might think it is far away from them, probably because they work in Nakasero market here, or someone might think they're far away from this because they work in a particular supermarket, because they think maybe it is something that is supposed to be something attributed to a particular class of people or class of employees.
Well, to begin with, we should first define what the occupational health is.
Yes.
because as you've said, many people think that this is for a particular group of people.
Exactly.
So we need to first let people know what it is.
Mm.
To begin with, occupational health, in simple terming, it is the work-related health.
Work-related.
You see, as you said in the beginning, that in our country here, we have the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2006. This act defines what a workplace is. It states that any place where work is done, it is a workplace. So occupational health...
Irrespective of how fancy or it is.
Very.
Okay.
So it means that occupational health engulfs all kinds, all walks of works. Be it mechanical, be it construction, be it medical, be it mining, be it where we are now. That is all embedded in occupational health. But as we always say, health doesn't merely mean disease or disability. Health is something which is holistic. It's just a broader aspect. Health encompasses a complete well-being of physical, social, emotional, psychological. So as we're talking about occupational health, we should not just align it to only
the physical.
We should also have the very bigger picture that occupational health includes all those things that I've mentioned.
This is interesting. You know, like I said in the beginning, that because the physical is very common, so sometimes we tend to limit it to the physical. And now it is on this platform that I'm understanding that it even goes ahead to someone's mental health.
Very. Take an instance. You see, one might think this is just physical. I'm in a construction company. I've gotten an issue. A machine has cut up my hand, and I go for a compensation claim. But take an instance, a company that has changed the director. A company X has brought in a new director. How will the workers accommodate the new changes psychologically? That's also part of occupational health. So occupational health has many dynamics, as we shall talk in the detailed conversation that we're going to have today. But we have also to think of what is safety, because occupational health works in line with safety. Safety is just absence of risk of injury, right? So as you said before, many people think that occupational health is in just one category of work. No, occupational health is a broader, it's in a broader sense that it encompasses all walks of works.
Okay.
Another issue to note about occupational health, why we should put in more emphasis on it,
and awareness.
And awareness, it is the global statistics are too worrying, because on the global scale, 2.75 million of people die because of work-related incidents.
That's a very big number.
2.4 live with work-related diseases. And the GDP of the global GDP is affected. We lose 4% of the global GDP because of occupational health-related illnesses and diseases. How will someone work and contribute to the GDP of the country when this person has been chopped off the hand?
Exactly.
How will this person go and get what to work to do when he has gotten something that this something needs him to be in the hospital? So you see, occupational health and safety, really, and thank you for choosing the topic, because it is one of the paramounts that we have to talk about to develop every sectors, to make profits, to develop the country, and so on and so forth.
You've talked about the dimensions of occupational health, and I think let us start from there. Let us get into the details of these dimensions so that at the end, someone's eyes will be opened. You know, I was somewhere. We were having, it was a book launch, but as people were testifying about their mental health challenges, and how their workplaces contributed a lot to their challenges and that. Now, a few people know that the workplace should give you a good working condition.
Very.
And this is part of the reasons we are here, especially when you start seeing things like mental illnesses resulting from the working conditions or the work environment. This is all occupational health that we're talking about.
Sure, it is. Because you see, at workplaces, many workers face issues that psychologically torture them.
Yeah.
The pressures at work, the rigorous targets, unrealistic ones, the changes the drastic changes that occur at work.
Unprepared for. The director just writes and they just sends a document that we've before
changed.
You know you have a warning letter. And that alone disturbs you psychologically.
That we've just changed your supervisor, we've just changed the head of department. How will I accommodate that change? That is all mental health.
Some are even demoted.
Thank you. You see,
you sleep today, you wake up with a notification, you've been demoted.
We've seen bullying at work.
Yeah.
That is all in occupational health. We've seen violence at work. We're seeing lone working, loner workers. You find a given task might need a body system approach, might need more people to handle, but it's only being handled by one person. That's all mental health, which is in section of occupational health. And actually, why are we talking about this? I've given you the statistics on the global scale, but even in Uganda here, over 4,000 people die because of work-related accidents.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that in Uganda, you realize that someone is being harassed at work, someone is being exploited at work, but they'll still work in the name of what will I do? How will I survive without this job?
No, the problem is many of our people don't know that it's they are right. They have the right for safer working conditions. Let me give you an example. You see, we have laws that you cited before.
Yes.
The Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2006, but also Uganda being a country under UN, we subscribe to the International Labour Organization. The International Labour Organization in 1981 sat and came out with the conventions and resolutions and recommendations towards working safe conditions, which Uganda being a signatory to UN, we should also follow, right? It gives these conventions and the recommendations, gives the obligations, gives the details on the responsibilities of the employer and the employee. Because the Act 16 of Convention 155 of International Labour Organization states that the employer is solely responsible for availing a conducive working environment. But again, also the employee has to take reasonable care for his safety at.
What is that favorable working condition that the law states?
Thank you. The law states that it details further that yes, the employer will provide safe working conditions that don't pose harmful hazards to the worker, including provision of personal protective equipment, including regular trainings at work, including regular risk assessments at
work,
including close supervision at
work,
including monitoring at
work.
But how does that happen? Who of many organizations, who does that? How many people do that?
Someone would say that they do the monitoring and evaluation, but of course this is not, this is for their tasks.
Thank you. This is for their?
Yes.
No.
Are you fulfilling the tasks you're supposed to fulfill?
No. So we're seeing a lot of issues. One, because the employee at times don't know that it's their right to be safe at work. So many of them just die silently. Many of them just leave work silently. Many of them just be at work and be like, let me push. but they are dying silently. You see, research says that chronic illnesses just start as initial small doses. The smaller the little, things become worse. So we have reasons why we should put more emphasis on occupational health. There are moral reasons. It is moral for an employer to provide safe working conditions to an employee. Because even the society expects the employer to take good care of his or own worker. That is a moral reason. Right? But we also have the financial reasons. If you don't inject money in occupational health and safety, you will get accidents at work. What do accidents mean? Accidents mean costs. Because at the end of the time, you will pay compensation, you will pay medical bills, you will pay the damages. Right?
That is where the vicarious liability now arrests you from.
You see? So that the financial reason why we should put more interest in occupational health, they are too visible. Because if you don't inject monies in occupational health and safety, we will inject more money in treating the patient that has gotten an issue from your workplace in legal compensations. Because we've seen cases, people run to court, and at the end of the time, these companies end up paying. So we have direct costs that go in, but we also have indirect costs. Because direct costs, if an accident happens, they are too visible. For example, an accident happens, this person has gotten a fracture, taken to the hospital, medical bills. That is a very direct what? Cost.
So some employees will run away from that. They will leave you, the employee, to struggle with your bills. I think they'll give you the first emergency.
The first emergency, first aid, and they leave you away.
Yes, because we've seen very many reports on this.
But that, at the end of the time, leads to the indirect effect to the organization. Indirect effect, what do I mean? These other consequences that come in if you don't take care of occupational health and safety. Say you've just given an emergency treatment and you leave your employee there. The reputation is going. That's an indirect cost. The morale of other staff also goes. That's an indirect cost. You see, the industrial relations, because even the employees within the organization will be like, our boss doesn't take good care of us. So there are many indirects that even cannot be insured, because some directs can be insured. You can insure the damaged properties, you can insure the life of an individual, but how will you insure the staff motivation? How will you ensure the public image? You see all of that. So that's why I have to thank you for having chosen this topic, that occupational health, we need to improve it, and we need to see what to do to improve it.
Actually, we were now looking at the dimensions, and I think I just hijacked because I think I realized that of late reports have been addressing this particular one, that we've gone into details. But let's look at the other dimensions of occupational health, as you told us that there are a number of dimensions.
They are a very big number, consequences of not taking care of good occupational health and safety. We've talked about the mental part, but also you have the physical part. You at work, at the end of the time, you get an injury. You are at work, you say a receptionist, you're oversitting at work, you don't even take breaks. Later on, you develop back pain. You are at work, say you a news anchor, you always look into, you focus on the screens that have dim lights. At the end of the time, you get blurry visions.
Is that now accountable to, for example, the first example you brought, the receptionist who sits the whole day, and then they develop a backache? Is that also attributed to the employer, or it is now the personal responsibility that you talked about?
Both. Why? You see, the employee is responsible to take reasonable care of himself, but also the employer has to tell the employee what to do. It's the employer's mandate.
I'm the employer.
Yeah.
I find my receptionist
Yeah.
sitting. So is it my mandate to tell them that, hey, stand up and walk around and then come back and sit? Or it is personal responsibility to do that?
As I told you, it's both, because it needs an administrative control.
Okay.
It needs a policy that gives breaks at work. Yes, because you might find a boss who says you have to sit on your chair, you do the work, strictly don't move away.
Arrival 8, departure 5.
Without any break. But come on, you have to bring in the administrative controls. You see, if we talk about how we can mitigate the risks and the hazards of that happen at workplace, many people just think of using personal protective equipment.
Yes.
Which is not actually even the first option. The control hierarchy of such hazards says that we have to start with the elimination. If you cannot eliminate the hazard, actually what is a hazard? A hazard is something that can cause harm. What is a risk? A risk is the likelihood of this hazard to cause harm. Right? Yeah. So if you want to, if you in dynamics of controlling hazards, using personal protective equipments is the least that you could go for. But we have the very first methods that you can go for. We have the elimination. You can eliminate the hazard.
What if it is uneliminatable?
Thank you. What if it's uneliminatable? You can substitute the hazard.
Let's take a short commercial break. When we return, we are going to now see how we can substitute the hazard. Stick with us.
Thank you.
back from the break. This is Family Hour. Adrian Austin Mukalas is my name, and we are looking at how to improve occupational health and safety of the employees at the places of work. Now, this is cross-cutting. It is directed to you, the employers, but also the employees, because at the end of the day, employee gwakafira muso. You should also take caution, and you should also acknowledge the fact that you have your rights as an employee, much as you might look at it as a favor that you have received to work in that particular space, but you also have a right as an employer, as an employee, while you are in that space. And that is what we are looking at. Our major target is how to improve the occupational health and safety, because at the end of the day, I mean, there is a lot of pain you get when you hear someone saying, I was working here, and then for example, people who work in horticulture farms, there's something they say that the pesticides they use are so harmful, but it is unfortunate that some don't even have masks or protective gears. Someone just goes as they are. They work for 3 years. They are laid off the work because they realize your health is now weakening. And I mean, that is so deadly. But someone will comfortably do that and say, I have nothing to do. This is the only opportunity I have. We have a song of unemployment. Someone will say, I've gotten an opportunity to work, and then I start telling people, I need a mask, I need a headgear, I need goggles, I need what? I mean, so you were talking about eliminating and substituting. And before the break, you had actually told us that if you can't eliminate, if the risk is uneliminatable, then you can substitute it. Sure. How do you substitute it?
How do we substitute? Taking the example that you've chosen, the pesticide. This pesticide might be containing organophosphate substances. Organophosphate might pose harmful, actually it poses, it poses harmful effects to one's health. But I cannot eliminate it. What do? I substitute with less hazardous substances.
Someone will say they are expensive.
Not really, only that our people don't know these hierarchies of how we control hazards. Because if a pesticide is more hazardous and you want to lower the doses that might affect one's health, if you cannot eliminate it, substitute it. Okay, you might not substitute it. What can I do? I cannot eliminate, I cannot substitute. I bring in engineering controls. What do I mean? Say if I'm going to spray this pesticide during a windy period, a windy season. Now let me spray during a sunny, a non-windy season. That is an engineering control. Okay, if you cannot even bring engineering, substitution you can, elimination you can't, substitution you can't, engineering control you can't, then you go to another layer of control, which we call the administrative controls. The other, as we ended the session, the other very first one, we are talking about a receptionist who is needed to always sit there. And I told you at least we can bring in the administrative controls. That is the role of an administrator. An administrator designs a policy. Like, sit at the computer for this period of time, then you get a break for this period of time. That is an administrative control. By then,
how about if the administrative control exists, but I also have a deadline? I'll give an example. Here in our field, you have a video you're editing. You need only you have only 2 hours, and it should be ready. So do you bring in the things of now? Let me relax for 5 minutes and then come back and edit it, because at the end of the day you'll not meet the deadline, and it will be a disappointment to the entire team.
You see. That's what I said in the beginning, that the rigorous pressures that we work under really expose us to psychological illnesses at work. But there are solutions for that. Why don't I empower the body system? What do I mean by body system? Why don't I have an assistant? Why don't I have a co-partner to help me out? These are simple things
The
that
company
we can internalize.
cannot sustain the other person.
Yes,
at a point.
Thank you. The company cannot sustain another co-partner, but within your team moment. Because actually, if the administrative controls cannot work within our main peers, we can do some things to see how we can have a well-being at work.
I'll selfishly ask for my colleagues out there. You know, our field, our profession these days, people think that anyone can beat us. The politicians beat us, the security agencies beat us. I mean, everyone, even when we have laws that protect us. And you realize that it is hurting that a journalist is on duty and they're being beaten by police, or they're being beaten by military or whoever. Or the other time we had stories of people being beaten by politicians. I mean, that is so absurd.
So unfortunate.
There are also times where you have to face tear gas. And that is, I mean, you cannot avoid that. You realize that employers try to give us some protective gears. For example, they give you a helmet to guard your head in case of any challenges. But then, what about the back, where the police will wipe and you have scars? What about the tear gas?
I see.
Who is going to get into those excessive expenses to get you protective gears for a one-day thing?
Okay. To take you back a little, you see, if we're dealing with joint ventures, like the example you've cited, I'm at work, I'm a journalist, I'm having an headgear or any protective garment, the police just tear gas me. Look, the police section and the journalist side, journalism side. The Article 17 of International Labour Law about occupational health states that if there is a joint venture, a joint activity, why don't we combine and we have similar path of works? What do I mean? Why should police? Actually, it's too unfortunate. Why do police?
It's wrong, by the way.
Yeah, it's too unfortunate. If you in the same field, you in different walks of works, but in the same field, police journalism, that means that we have to develop similar working safe conditions for both of workers of police and workers of the journalist sector. Back to the question that was a little. Back to the point that you've said, who is going to put in more expenses for personal protective gears? As I've told you, layers or the control hierarchy, the personal protective gears actually gets the lowest. It is the lowest at the ranking.
Yet in society, it is what we bring first.
Which is actually not right.
On construction sites, the gumboots and the helmet and I mean the gloves are the first things. They even put a notice: don't access this place without this.
That is right. I'm not dissing PPEs, because actually these only protect you as you who is using them.
Physically.
You as you who is using them. It doesn't protect your neighbor. It doesn't protect your other colleague. That's why we start with, if you cannot eliminate, substitute. If you cannot substitute, bring in engineering. If you cannot engineer, bring in administrative. In administrative controls, there are many things.
Okay.
So if in addition to administrative, later on you bring in PPEs. We've seen cases in the hospital. We've seen many health workers contracting dangerous diseases like hepatitis B and HIV, AIDS from patients.
Yes.
Look at that. And we find cases when even this health worker has been using a personal protective gear. And at the end of the time, he or she has contacted this disease. You wonder and you'll be like, this person has been using PPEs rightly. Because that's also something different. You might find someone, okay, I'm wearing a PPE, but I'm not wearing it rightly. I'm not using it consistently. That's why we appreciate there is an initiative that goes on which says, Yambala for me. Yambala for me. Yambala for me.
For me.
For me.
So put it
wear a condom for me. wear a seatbelt for me, wear a mask for me, therefore for yambala for
Me.
wear a helmet for.
Me.
You look at that. So use of PPEs, it's very okay, but it needs other substantive measures of control such that we can have a healthier working environment.
Still, we were still looking at dimensions. I mean, now, I mean, because each dimension that comes up, you realize that it takes us into the, the details.
Yeah.
But I think those are two we've looked at. We've looked at the
two of
physical,
them.
we've looked at the
Physical and psychological.
And psychological.
Then we can drive our conversation to how we classify the hazards.
Exactly.
Because classification of hazards can tell us which other dynamics are embedded in occupational health and safety.
Okay.
Because yes,
how are they classified then?
Thank you. There are physical hazards. Say noise. Say electricity. Say fire. Say radiations. Say slips and trips. Those are all physical hazards. As I told you, an hazard is something that poses harm. Electricity here, it is okay, but it poses harm. If there is if there is a situation that can lead to cause harm, like wet environment. So the situation is the risk.
What if I have my charger in a socket at work, and then there is a circuit, and then my charger is destroyed? Should I still say that the employer is answerable for that?
You as the employee, you need to make sure that you're using the socket and the charger and the phone rightly. You're using all these gadgets in the right weather conditions. But the employer is solely responsible for maintenance. You see that the biggest part is on the employer.
Yes.
Because most cases, most risks happen due to negligence of the employer. This employer doesn't do maintenance. This employer doesn't do risk assessment to identify the current hazards. You might find an organization with a risk assessment which is too outdated and cannot match with the current versions of hazards.
Some employers even have the risk assessments?
And that is a big question. Because recently...
Do they even know what a risk assessment is?
And actually, I need to define it.
That is why.
You see, what a risk assessment is, and actually the benefits of it. These things that we talk, they are too important for someone's health at work. Risk assessment is a formal procedure of identifying risks. I told you what a risk is, of identifying of identifying hazards, of identifying how the risk, the range of risk, how the impacts of it, and the consequences of a hazard, and then identifying control measures for it. Like how I've told you, I've come here, I'm seeing electricity, in my mind I be like, that's an hazard. Then I be like, what might be the risk? What is the likelihood of this electricity to cause harm to these people? I look, and I be like, oh, they are charging these appliances in wet environment. Then getting an electric shock when using this electricity, when charging this electric appliance in wet environment is very likely. So I think you're seeing what I mean. So the importance of risk assessment, it helps us to identify the hazards. What are the hazards in the organization? What are the risks? What are the situations that could actually cause this hazard to cause harm? Then what are the current control measures at place? Because yes, we know there are some current control. Who are people who will be affected? Because the effects of occupational health and safety don't end to the employer and employee. No, even visitors, even contractors, even other people that come and bypass, they might be, because if fire guts this building, It won't only affect people who are here.
Exactly.
It will affect almost the whole populace here, right? So that's why you're seeing a lot of fire outbreaks in schools. That's why you're seeing a lot of accidents in construction, in agricultural industries. It is because these organizations don't conduct risk assessments. Yeah, because if you conduct a risk assessment, you know what is happening, and you design appropriate control measures for it.
I enter this building. You said water is another one. I find the cleaner cleaning, and the floor is still wet. But I have to rush in. Probably I have a show in the morning, so I have to rush in into the studio. But the sole of my shoe is worn out, and then as I'm walking, I slip off and fall. Should I still condemn the employer?
You have to first in line then, because those are what we call slips and trips, hazards. It's a wet floor, water is still there, the floor is slippery, and then you walk in. You have to first blame yourself, but again you equally blame the employer. Why? He or she should have issued a directive for these workers to work in time earlier, such that if other people come, they find the floor when it's wet. So you see, it is a balance. Everyone has a responsibility. As I told you, ILO, the International Labour Organization, everyone, there is a certain responsibility on the employer and the employee, right? So that's why we need safety committee meetings. That's why these things have to be discussed in meetings of the organization at every level. That's why they always have to do a day-to-day monitoring, supervision, such that we eliminate these hazards. They do maintenance, we eliminate them. They do risk assessments, we know them, and we design appropriate control measures.
These are physical hazards.
Yeah, those are physical hazards. There are psychological hazards, as we already talked about: bullying, violence, lonely working, use of drugs at workplace. Those are all psychological
hazards.
What might cause them? The relationships that you have with your colleagues here, how you manage change in the management, the pressures you pass through for work, the stress. Look at that. But we also have another category. Those are the ergonomics. These are body motion hazards created when the body is in motion. Yes.
we need to understand this very well.
So you need to be sure to understand it.
Yes.
An instance, the journalist is carrying a camera, or the instrument I'm seeing in front of me. This person is doing it regularly. Agree with me, at some time this person will have muscle pains. This person might have back pains. This person might have tendon ligament pains. Those are what we call ergonomical hazards. That the body has been in motion, and at the end of the time, this person has gotten an health ailment.
Is there even anyone who cares about that?
No one cares. Some care because they know. Others, they don't care because they don't know. Employers, actually...
the employees, of course, you know what you're going through. You sit and you don't want to even to stand up the next minute. But do the employers even care?
Actually, some might want to care, but they don't know. Some might actually need to care, but they don't know what to do. That's why we always advise every organization to have a safety officer to tell them these things. Because, as I've told you, training doesn't merely mean training of employees only. We have different levels of training at different levels of administration. There is specific training for directors. That is occupational health and safety leadership training. That the leadership training of occupational health that you'll give to the director, it won't be the same that you'll give to a person who is a normal employee. So these employers also need training. How will they get this training? Employing safety officers okay, if they might not employ them, having safety consultations such that they know what to do. Yeah, because the major challenge we've seen is the less priority and commitment towards occupational health and safety by management. They feel like production, they have to focus more on production or on their work than health and safety of the employee.
Exactly.
Forgetting that it's the employee who makes the profits at the end of the time, right? So that is the
success of the organization
depends on
the employee.
Thank you. But the employer at times give less priority to safety and health of the employee.
It's what I say, that it is because of the despair of very many people that someone, even when they are exploited extremely, even when they go through all this, they have no option. It's an opportunity, it's a favor, they look at it as a favor. And so the employer will remind you that if you don't want to work, you go. Someone else will come. I have very many applications. I'll call someone in a few minutes, they'll have replaced you. So when such statements come through, then of course, how will you start reminding your employer that
I need this and this? You see, these are the very problems that we face. In health and safety, there is what we call health and safety culture. There is negative and positive. Main indicators of negative health and safety culture is that staff turnover, high staff turnover. That for you feel like you can anytime employ and deploy. That is a negative indicator of health and safety, right? When will you end to employ and deploy? You need at least to set a standard, right? These are standards
to
that
grow with your team.
Yes, you need to set a standard that for my organization to grow, I have to take health and safety as a priority, right? Because this does not only benefit the employee, but also benefits the productivity of the company. So these are things that we need to challenge. We should not sit silent. At some point, we need to challenge these things.
There is something you talked about under ergonomic hazards. For example, if I'm sent out in the field, I go in the morning and I come back at 5. But while I was there, maybe in planning, it didn't show, or it didn't come out that I'll be there up to lunchtime, past lunch, then up to 5. And then I find myself coming back to office at around 5. I didn't have breakfast, I didn't have lunch. Who is to be blamed for that? The employer who didn't facilitate my lunch and breakfast, or me, the employee who didn't have some money on me to buy the lunch?
You see, when we working in any organization, we should have safe working conditions for the employee. That is a must. For every work, we should have a design of safe working procedures. And these safe working procedures come from health and safety policies. That's why actually every organization, every company should have health and safety policy. But you find many of employees, when they get work, they don't even read the health and safety policy. Then the employer takes it at their advantage, because this employee has not read, has not understood the health and safety policy.
Is it supposed to be attached to the contract I sign? Is it supposed to be pinned somewhere? Because I believe employees do not get into these details because they're not provided, they're not availed.
You see, actually, the right thing, the health and safety policy should be pinned, and every visitor should have seen it.
The way we pin the vision and mission and the core values.
Thank you. This health and safety policy should be pinned in a simple language, such that every person can understand. Because I told you, if a work-related accident happens, it does not only affect employees, but it also affects visitors. The visitors must also know where the exit route is when fire gets to the building. That's why such policy should be displayed on notice board, such that every person can know the health and safety policy of an organization.
Okay.
Right? But many people don't take concern of this. Many workers.
Is there a law that protects an employee if they requested for some of these details? Because someone will say, "Hey, Gwengoli na kajanja kanje." Shall we manage in this institution?
No, this is not kajanja, if I say. But actually, as I told you, we have the International Labour Organization, the Convention number 155 that guides us what to do, and the recommendation of 16 that puts what we do in practice, because the policy is there, but we also need to see how we put it in practice. Yes, it's there, but that is on a global scale, UN. But even in Uganda, the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 2006, number 9, also states the same, because it was ratified from ILO, right? Because Uganda is a member of UN. So these things really happen, but it is only that as employees, we don't take concern of them. One employee might be suffocated, he or she leaves work. For you who have not been suffocated, you'll be like, that one's problems.
You think it's none of your business.
And you sit back. Not until they reach you, they also let you, show you the way. But when the cause is actually from the employer, not you. So these are things that...
what are your closing remarks? I see our time is running out, and we can talk and talk and talk. I mean, this is a very interesting topic.
Sure. One, I have to first thank the management of Family TV for having chosen this topic. These are one of the pivotal topics that will develop the country, that will individually move and benefit all the people of Uganda and the world at large. Two, the most closing remark I have to share with you: don't think of occupational health and safety as something for the elites, as something for big companies. The 45.9 million in Uganda, both in informal and formal sector, all need these things. They all need a well-being at work. I wish you a nice evening. Good night, all those at home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barnabas, and thank you so much, you, our viewer. It's been a pleasure delving into this topic. Probably next time in the future, we shall still have a continuation of this. But just in case you want to rewatch or you want to share this with someone, feel free to share a link with your employer. Go to our YouTube channel and just share this video to your work WhatsApp group. I mean, people should know this. You should create. If you are an upcoming employer, please, you should listen to some of these things so that people's children do not suffer in your hands. Adrian Austin Mukalazi is my name. I'm grateful that Church of Uganda Family TV at least has given us an opportunity and a good working environment. That's why we smile. Jonah Jal smiles, Homoza smiles, and very many other people out there. We are grateful to the management. Next on your TV is Soul Moment. We meet again tomorrow.
Family Hour, empowering